Putin's 2025 SPIEF Media Summit Unraveled. Hey there, listeners, and welcome back to Roh'sCorner, your go-to podcast for diving deep into the world's biggest political moments. I'm your host, Roh, and today we're unpacking a major event that's got everyone talking: Russian President Vladimir Putin's high-profile meeting with global news agency leaders at the 2025 St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, or SPIEF for short. This happened on June 18, 2025, and let me tell you, it was a whirlwind of bold statements, geopolitical shade, and some eyebrow-raising moments. From Ukraine to China, NATO to the Middle East, Putin didn't hold back. So, grab your coffee, settle in, and let's break it all down. Ready? Let's go. First, let's set the scene. The St. Petersburg International Economic Forum is like Russia's annual flex on the global stage. It's a mix of economic summit, political theater, and networking hub, drawing leaders, CEOs, and media from around the world. This year's theme? Shared values, the foundation of growth in a multipolar world. That's a mouthful, I know, but it's code for Russia's push to reshape global power dynamics, challenging the West and cozying up to partners like China. SPIEF 2025, held from June 18 to 21, was the 28th edition, and it was packed with over 21,000 participants from 139 countries. Impressive, right? Now, the highlight we're zooming in on today is Putin's sit-down with heads of 15 major news agencies. Think Reuters, AFP, Associated Press, Germany's DPA, China's Xinhua, and even Belarus' BelTA. This wasn't your typical press conference with shouted questions. It was a curated, late-night Q&A, moderated by TASS, Russia's state-run news agency. Picture this: it's past midnight, everyone's just come from a concert at the newly renovated Rimsky-Korsakov Conservatory, and Putin's cracking jokes about hitting the second octave to keep things lively. That's the vibe we're working with. So, what went down? Let's start with the big one, Ukraine. If you've been following global news, you know the Russia-Ukraine conflict is still a major flashpoint. Putin didn't shy away from it. He said he's ready to meet Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, but only at the final phase of negotiations. Here's the kicker: he questioned Zelensky's legitimacy, pointing to his expired presidential term. It's a classic Putin move, casting doubt while keeping the door cracked open for talks. He also revealed that Russian and Ukrainian negotiating teams are gearing up for another round, possibly after June 22, 2025. Could this signal a shift, or is it more diplomatic chess? But Putin wasn't just talking peace. He floated the idea of Russian forces targeting Sumy, a city near the border, to create a buffer zone. That's a polite way of saying Russia wants a security cushion, but it's a stark reminder that military escalation is still on the table. And then there's Germany. Putin warned that if Germany supplies Taurus cruise missiles to Ukraine, it's basically stepping into the war. He said, quote, "We have big questions for Germany." Yet, in the same breath, he was like, "Hey, Chancellor Merz, I'm open to a call." Welcome. It's this mix of saber-rattling and olive branch waving that makes Putin's rhetoric so hard to pin down. Now, let's pivot to global trade and Russia's vision for a multipolar world. SPIEF is all about economics, and Putin leaned hard into that. He slammed global trade wars and what he calls arbitrary restrictions, think Western sanctions on Russia. He's pitching a fairer world order, one where countries play by transparent rules. Of course, critics would say Russia's not exactly a rule follower itself, but that's the narrative Putin's selling. He touted SPIEF as a platform to overcome economic challenges, pointing to growing participation from non-Western countries. It's like he's saying, the West isn't the only game in town anymore. Speaking of non-Western partners, China got a big shout-out. Putin bragged about $200 billion in joint investment projects, saying every single one will happen. He even mentioned how Russians are flocking to learn Chinese, a nod to deepening cultural ties. This isn't just talk. Russia and China have been tightening their economic and strategic partnership for years, especially since sanctions hit Russia hard. It's a signal to the West, we've got options. Okay, let's zoom out to other global hotspots. The Middle East came up, specifically the Iran-Israel conflict. Putin dropped an intriguing line about underground factories in Iran, saying, "They exist, and nothing has happened to them." It's a cryptic comment, but it suggests Russia's keeping a close eye on Iran's capabilities. When asked about the possibility of Israel or the US targeting Iran's supreme leader, Putin dodged the question entirely. A Reuters journalist on X noted this as a rare moment of restraint. It's like Putin knew that topic was a diplomatic landmine. He also touched on NATO, calling its military upgrades a global concern. No surprise there, Russia's been wary of NATO's expansion for decades. But he didn't dwell on it, instead weaving it into his broader narrative of a world where Russia's security comes first. For example, he said Russia won't tolerate armed forces in Ukraine that threaten its people or borders. It's a line he's drawn before, but hearing it at SPIEF, with global media in the room, gives it extra weight. Let's not forget the other countries Putin name-dropped. Kazakhstan got some love. He called them allies with no complicating factors in their relationship. That's diplomatic speak for "we're good." He highlighted shared history and ties through groups like the Eurasian Economic Union and SCO. It's a reminder that Russia's still flexing influence in its backyard. Europe, though? Putin threw some shade, saying European countries cut off contact with Russia and should restart it. "We're open," he said, but you could hear the smirk in that one. And then there's the US. Putin said a meeting with Donald Trump would be a highly useful but needs prep work. It's classic geopolitics. Keep the lines open, even with rivals. He also took a swipe at the American economy, saying decades of super profits have enriched elites, not the middle class. It's a dig that resonates with populist sentiments, and you can bet he knows it. Now, let's talk about the vibe of this meeting. It wasn't just what Putin said but how he said it. The guy ended with a biblical quote, "Whoever of you is without sin, let him be the first to throw a stone at me." Talk about dramatic. It's like his daring critics to judge Russia while deflecting scrutiny. The setting helped, too. Before the Q&A, Putin took the news agency heads to a concert at the Rimsky-Korsakov Conservatory, showing off Russia's cultural clout. It's soft power 101, wine and dine the media, then drop your talking points. The meeting itself was moderated by TASS's Mikhail Gusman, and it had a mix of scripted and candid moments. Western journalists were there, which is notable given Russia's tense relations with unfriendly countries. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said this was intentional, to let Western media hear Putin's views firsthand. But let's be real, it's also a chance for Russia to control the narrative. Still, the fact that Reuters and AFP were in the room shows Putin's playing a long game, trying to reach global audiences. So, what does all this mean? Why should you care about a late-night meeting in St. Petersburg? Well, for one, it's a window into Russia's mindset in 2025. Putin's doubling down on a multipolar world, where Russia, China, and others challenge Western dominance. The Ukraine stuff? It's a reminder that the conflict's far from resolved, and every word from Putin moves markets, troops, and headlines. His comments on Germany and NATO show how Europe's still a chessboard in this great power game. And the Middle East references? They hint at Russia's role as a wildcard in that region's chaos. Economically, SPIEF 2025 underscores Russia's pivot to non-Western partners. Those $200 billion projects with China aren't just numbers, they're jobs, infrastructure, and influence. For everyday folks, this matters because global trade shifts affect prices, from gas to groceries. And culturally, that bit about Russians learning Chinese, it's a sign of how alliances shape not just politics but people's lives. Let's wrap this up with a big picture thought. Putin's SPIEF media summit wasn't just about dropping sound bites. It was Russia saying, "We're here, we're relevant, and we're not backing down." Whether you see Putin as a master strategist or a provocateur, his words carry weight. They shape how leaders react, how markets move, and how the world's fault lines shift. And in a year like 2025, with conflicts raging and economies wobbling, that's something we can't ignore. So, listeners, what do you think? Is Putin's vision of a multipolar world gaining traction? Will we see progress on Ukraine talks, or is that buffer zone talk a sign of more trouble? Drop your thoughts under comments and wherever you connect. And if you loved this deep dive, hit that subscribe button and leave a review. It keeps us going. Next week, we're tackling another global headline, so stay tuned. Until then, keep your eyes on the world, and thanks for listening to Roh's Corner. I'm Roh, signing off.